Imagine opening your eyes nearly 3,000 years ago. There is no Colosseum, no Roman Empire, no Caesar, no great armies marching beneath crimson banners, only forests, rolling hills, and the quiet waters of the Tiber River. Somewhere nearby, 2 newborn babies are crying. A wolf is slowly walking toward them. Whether this really happened, no one can know, but the people who built Rome believed it did, and sometimes a story can change the world more than the truth. This is where Rome begins. Long before emperors ruled the Mediterranean, there was no Rome. The most powerful Latin city in this region was Alba Longa, resting peacefully among the Alban hills. Its king was Numitor, but kingdoms rarely fall from outside first. More often, they collapse from within. Numitor's younger brother, Amulius, seized the throne in a violent coup. To make sure no rightful heir could ever challenge him, he murdered nearly every member of Numitor's family. Only one survived: Numitor's daughter, Rhea Silvia. Amulius forced her to become a Vestal virgin, a priestess sworn never to marry or bear children. With no descendants, the royal bloodline would simply disappear. Or so he believed. Months later, Rhea Silvia became pregnant. She claimed the father was Mars, the god of war. Whether it was divine intervention, a desperate lie, or something history can never explain, nobody knows. What mattered was that she gave birth to twin boys, Romulus and Remus. To Amulius, they were not infants. They were a threat. The king ordered the babies abandoned beside the river, left to die before they could ever claim the throne. But the river had other plans. The basket carrying the twins drifted gently downstream before catching among the roots of a fig tree. There, according to Roman legend, a she-wolf found them. Instead of killing the helpless infants, she protected them, she fed them, she kept them alive. For centuries, Romans would see the wolf not as a beast, but as the first mother of their civilization. Eventually, a shepherd discovered the children and brought them home. The twins grew into powerful young men. They knew nothing of palaces, nothing of crowns, only the hills, the forests, and the struggle to survive. As adults, they became natural leaders, strong, fearless, quick to fight injustice. One day, after a conflict with local bandits, they finally learned the truth. They were not shepherds. They were princes. Their grandfather had once been king. Their uncle had stolen everything. The brothers gathered supporters from across the countryside. Together they marched back to Alba Longa. Amulius was overthrown. Numitor reclaimed his throne. Justice at last had returned, but neither Romulus nor Remus wished to remain in Alba Longa. They dreamed of something greater, a city of their own. The brothers traveled south until they reached the banks of the Tiber. 7 hills overlooked the river. Trade routes crossed nearby. The land was fertile. It was the perfect place to build a city, but one question divided them. Where exactly should it stand? Romulus chose the Palatine Hill. Remus preferred the Aventine. Neither would surrender. To settle the dispute, they turned to the gods. Each would watch the skies. The one who received the greater omen would decide the city's future. Remus claimed to see 6 sacred birds. Romulus claimed 12. Neither accepted the other's victory. What began as an argument became something darker. Romulus began building walls around his chosen hill. Remus mocked them. He stepped over the unfinished wall, laughing that such defenses could never protect a city. For Romulus, it was more than an insult. It was an attack on the future itself. He struck his brother down. Remus died beside the walls of the city that would never bear his name. According to tradition, Romulus spoke only a few words: "So perish anyone who crosses my walls." Rome was born not in peace but in blood. Romulus became the first king of Rome. Yet his new kingdom was hardly impressive. A few wooden huts, rough walls, a handful of determined settlers. It was far from the capital of an empire. Rome faced an immediate problem. It had land, it had food. It had ambitious young men, but it had almost no women. Without families, the city would disappear within a generation. Romulus devised a ruthless solution. He invited the neighboring Sabines to a great festival. Music filled the air, food flowed freely. The guests lowered their guard. Then, at a signal from the king, Roman men seized the Sabine women and carried them away. Tsewe. War followed almost immediately. The Sabines marched against Rome to reclaim their daughters. The battle seemed inevitable, but before either side could destroy the other, the women themselves stepped between the armies. They pleaded for peace. They refused to watch their fathers and husbands slaughter one another. The fighting stopped. The two peoples united. Rome survived, not because it avoided conflict, but because it learned how to grow stronger from it. 6 more kings followed Romulus. Some built temples, some expanded the city. Others constructed roads, bridges, harbors, and massive drainage systems that transformed a collection of villages into a functioning capital. Each ruler added another stone to Rome's foundation, but the final king ruled through fear. He ignored tradition, he abused his power, he believed the city existed only to serve him. The Romans had seen enough. They drove him from the city, and they made a promise that would shape the next 500 years. Never again would Rome have a king. Instead, power would be shared. Magistrates would be elected. No single man would rule alone. The Roman Republic had begun. Yet the greatest challenges still lay ahead. Very soon, another people from the north would teach Rome a lesson it would never forget. The Romans believed they had built a stronger government. No kings, no tyrants, no man above the law. But history rarely gives anyone peace for long. From the north came a new enemy, the Gauls. Fierce Celtic warriors swept into central Italy, crushing the Roman army and marching straight toward the city. Rome burned, homes were looted, temples were desecrated. The proud young republic was humiliated. To make the invaders leave, the Romans paid them an enormous ransom in gold. The memory of that defeat would haunt Rome for generations. From that day forward, Rome made a silent promise. Never again would it wait for enemies to come. If danger existed beyond its borders, it would destroy that danger first. What began as survival slowly became conquest. Rome first united the Latin tribes around it. Then came the mountain peoples, Greek cities in southern Italy. One victory led to another. Every conquered land brought new wealth, new soldiers, and new ambition. Across the sea stood the Republic's greatest rival, Carthage, rich, powerful master of the Mediterranean. The struggle between these two republics would become one of history's greatest rivalries, the Punic Wars. The first war was fought for islands and sea routes. Rome had almost no navy, so it built one from scratch. It copied Carthaginian ships, trained thousands of inexperienced sailors, and somehow won. The second war nearly destroyed Rome. A brilliant Carthaginian general named Hannibal marched an army across the Alps with elephants, achieving what many believed impossible. For years he defeated Roman armies again and again, yet Rome refused to surrender. Even after terrible losses, it simply raised another army, then another and another. In the end, Carthage fell. The Third War ended not with victory, but with annihilation. The city of Carthage was erased, its people enslaved, its empire vanished forever. There was now no equal left to challenge Rome. The Republic ruled the Mediterranean, but success brought a new danger: too much power, too much wealth, too many ambitious generals. Among those generals, one man stood above all others: Julius Caesar. He conquered Gaul, crossed into Britain, pushed Rome's borders farther than anyone had imagined. His soldiers adored him, the people celebrated him, the Senate feared him. When ordered to surrender his command and return to Rome alone, Caesar refused. Instead, he crossed the Rubicon River with his army. By doing so, he declared war. The Republic was no longer fighting foreign enemies. It was fighting itself. Caesar emerged victorious for the first time in centuries. One man held almost unlimited power. He reformed the calendar, reduced debt, expanded citizenship, rewarded veterans, strengthened the government. Many ordinary Romans loved him, but others saw only one thing: a king in everything but name. On the Ides of March, senators surrounded Caesar inside the Senate House. 23 wounds ended his life. The conspirators believed they had saved the Republic. Instead, they destroyed it. Rome exploded into chaos once again. Caesar's closest ally, Mark Antony, demanded revenge. Meanwhile, an 18-year-old adopted son quietly returned to Italy. His name was Octavian. At first, few people took him seriously. He looked too young, too quiet, too inexperienced. But beneath that calm appearance was extraordinary patience. While Antony chased glory in the east and fell in love with Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt, Octavian stayed in Rome. He won allies. He gained the loyalty of the army. Most importantly, he won public opinion. The final confrontation came at the Battle of Actium. Octavian's fleet defeated Antony and Cleopatra. Rather than face capture, both took their own lives. For the first time in decades, there was no rival left. Rome belonged to one man. Octavian understood something Julius Caesar never had. The Romans hated kings, so he never called himself one. Instead, he accepted a different title. Augustus, the revered one. Officially, the Republic still existed, the Senate still met, the old offices remained, but everyone knew where real power now rested. In 27 BC, the Roman Empire was born. Yet Augustus wanted more than victory. He wanted stability. He transformed Rome's armies into permanent professional legions. Soldiers no longer fought for individual generals, they served the state. Their pay came from the government, their retirement was guaranteed. Loyalty shifted away from ambitious commanders and back to Rome itself. It was one of the most important reforms in Roman history. For decades, civil war disappeared, roads stretched across continents, aqueducts carried fresh water into cities, trade flourished, law connected millions of people under a single government. This age would later become known as the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. For many living inside the empire, it seemed as though Rome might truly last forever. But beyond the forests north of the Rhine, another future was already taking shape. For years, Rome believed its destiny was endless expansion. There was always another river to cross, another kingdom to conquer, another frontier to push. Then came the year AD 9-3. Roman legions marched into the forests of Germania under the command of Publius Quinctilius Varus. Their guide was a trusted ally, a Germanic noble raised in Rome. A man who spoke Latin, served in the Roman army, and understood the empire better than many Romans themselves. His name was Arminius. He had earned Rome's trust. Now he would use it against them deep inside the Teutoburg forest. Arminius led the legions into a carefully prepared trap. Rain turned the roads to mud. The dense forest broke the Roman formations apart. Supply wagons became obstacles. Orders could no longer travel from one end of the column to the other. For 3 days, the attacks never stopped. Hidden warriors emerged from the trees, struck without warning, and disappeared again into the forest. Rome's greatest military machine was helpless. Nearly 20,000 soldiers died. Varus took his own life rather than face the shame of defeat. The 17th, the 18th, the 19th legions, their numbers were never used again. For Augustus, the disaster was devastating. The dream of conquering Germania ended forever. The Rhine became Rome's permanent frontier. For the first time, the empire accepted that not every land could be conquered. Augustus left behind the strongest state the ancient world had ever seen. But no empire is protected from time. Some emperors ruled wisely. Others ruled through fear. Power slowly drifted away from laws and institutions and toward whoever controlled the army. The Praetorian Guard, created to protect the emperor, soon discovered it could also choose the emperor. Some rulers were murdered, others bought the throne, civil wars returned, every victory weakened Rome a little more. The empire still looked magnificent, its cities remained crowded, its roads still stretched across continents, but beneath the marble cracks were spreading. While emperors fought for power, another movement quietly spread across the empire. Christianity, what began as a small faith in the eastern provinces, slowly gained followers throughout Roman society. At first, Roman authorities viewed Christians as a threat. Many were imprisoned, many were executed, yet the faith continued to grow. Eventually, even emperors could no longer ignore it. When Constantine came to power, everything changed. He legalized Christianity, then he founded a magnificent new capital in the east, Constantinople, perfectly positioned between Europe and Asia, rich, well defended, and destined to become the heart of the empire. Although Rome remained famous, power had already begun to move eastward. The empire still claimed to be one, but it was becoming two different worlds. In AD 395, after the death of Emperor Theodosius, the empire was permanently divided between east and west. The Eastern Empire remained wealthy. The Western Empire struggled. Then came a migration unlike anything Europe had ever seen. From the vast Eurasian steppe rode the Huns. Entire nations fled before them. Goths, Vandals, and many others crossed Rome's borders, searching for safety. The empire accepted some, fought others, controlled almost none. As the years passed, Rome no longer expanded. It merely tried to survive. In AD 410, the city of Rome was sacked for the first time in nearly 800 years. The psychological shock echoed across the world. The Eternal City was no longer untouchable. More invasions followed. The Western Empire lost its richest provinces. Its tax system collapsed. Its armies shrank. Finally, in AD 476, the last Western emperor was forced to surrender his throne. His name was Romulus Augustus. A cruel irony, he carried the names of Rome's legendary founder and its first emperor, yet he ruled almost nothing. The Western Roman Empire was gone, but Rome did not disappear. Far to the east, Constantinople still stood. Its people never called themselves Byzantines. They called themselves Romans. For nearly 1,000 more years, they defended what remained of the empire against Persians, against Arabs, against Crusaders, and finally against the Ottomans. In AD 1453, after weeks of relentless siege, the walls of Constantinople were breached. The last Roman emperor died fighting in the streets of his city. The empire that had begun beside the Tiber River nearly 2,000 years earlier had finally come to an end. Empires rise, empires fall. Every generation believes its civilization will last forever. Rome believed that, yet today, its emperors are gone, its legions have vanished, its temples stand in ruins, and still we live in a world shaped by Rome. Its laws influence modern justice. Its language echoes through countless words we still speak. Its roads, ideas, architecture, and government change history long after the empire itself disappeared. Perhaps that is Rome's greatest victory. Not that it conquered the ancient world, but that pieces of it survived the empire itself, and it all began with a story. Two abandoned children, a wolf beside a river. Whether the legend was true no longer matters, because from that story, the world we know was born.